Just a couple of guys, a couple microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, know-it-alls? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. In your face, in-depth NFL outlooks and ideas for you guys every single week. Welcome to the show, everybody. Well, listen, if you're new to the show, do us a huge favor. Help us grow this football community of ours and head over to YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. Let you guys know when we go live. Also, hit the like. Comment down below. You could be part of the show that way. And as always, you can also follow us anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And another interesting week. Just when we thought we might have known what some of these teams were,
they pulled the rug right out from under you.
And you know what? We should have known too. Even looking at we all got fooled. I think about what the Miami Dolphins did last week and stuff. We just underestimated maybe how inept, I guess, that Denver Broncos team really is, I guess. You know, with the way the Miami Dolphins destroyed them so badly the one week. So then coming in against the Buffalo Bills thinking it was going to be, you know, a really tighter game and an impressive outing here by the Miami Dolphins. But the Buffalo Bills really showed up in that game too.
They did, and I wouldn't say that we were misled by the Dolphins. I still feel like they're the number one offense in the NFL. They still feel like they're very high powered. They play well. Listen, those interdivision games they're tough, and the Bills, honestly, you know, kind of woke up the Miami Dolphins. It awoken them to the point where they're like, hey, wait, it's not going to be that easy. We're still going to have to work hard and attack every opponent every single week. So going forward for the Dolphins, this is a wake-up call. So and it's fine because it's early in the year. They can regroup and head into this week and make a statement this week. So I think going forward for the Dolphins, I'm not concerned about them at all. Like, yeah, okay, they got their asses whooped against Buffalo in Buffalo. Okay, it happens. But now going forward for Tua and company, that they're just going to get back on track. They're going to start, you know, putting points on the board like they normally do, and they'll get right back into the thing.
Yeah, I know, absolutely, and you know, it's tough to play there in Buffalo, and that's what happens sometimes.
They have a good defense.
Those guys stepped up.
I mean, honestly, like, and if we're honest about this, that matchup right there, the Dolphins and the Bills, was the biggest one of the week, and a lot of people I think were looking forward to seeing that matchup. And for the Bills, part of them kind of felt disrespected going into that week against the Dolphins. A lot of people wrote them off because Buffalo has been struggling as of late. They haven't been hitting on all cylinders. Josh Allen has been making a lot of mistakes. The offense hasn't been as good as it was a season before. And the defense has been letting some plays go. And so going into that week, that's where kind of like I was teetering is picking the Dolphins is because, well, the Bills haven't looked good so far this season. They haven't been executing and you know, getting the plays finished at the end of the play. They're finishing the plays instead of just kind of, oh, we're doing the play, but we're not executing as well. So that's kind of where my mindset was when I picked the Dolphins. Yeah, it was in Buffalo, but I'm like, hey, it's early in the year. It's not going to be bitter cold, so maybe this might work out in Dolphins' favor, but it didn't. So kudos to the Buffalo Bills for getting it together and rallying around each other and attacking the Dolphins, an interdivisional opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe, you know, after that Thursday night game, how about that one with the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions? That defense came to play again. There you go. You know, something about them just super intense. You know, always in the backfield, getting the sacks. It was just a nuts thing for them. And the fact that they can go into Green Bay and pull out a win, and when they haven't in a long time, you know, the fact that, you know, Aaron Rodgers isn't there anymore helps out for them. But to go through in this team, again, live and die through like what their coaches kind of like. They're very tough, very aggressive, and they got it done here with a Green Bay team who actually looked pretty impressive this year so far. And we just started to see a little bit, I think, of the growing pains that you're going to have a little bit with a young quarterback in Jordan Love here. But moving forward, still impressive. Moving forward,
Let's put it into perspective, though. The first half, very impressive for Detroit. Second half, not so much. They definitely the Packers did this the week prior, where they had to come back in the end of the game, and they came all the way back, and they ended up pulling out a win. This was the same scenario where Green Bay, after halftime, they changed and made some adjustments. And they started to really come back, score, stop Detroit, get the ball back, score, stop Detroit, get the ball back. And you started to see something happen once again for Green Bay, where they were like, they might be down in the first half, but they're not out. Right. And we saw them roaring back, and until Detroit kind of collected themselves and was able to stop that momentum that Green Bay had, that's really the turning point in the game. Like, Detroit Lions literally almost let that game slip away from them, and Green Bay almost stole yet another win. So for the Green Bay Packers, they are better than we thought they would be with Jordan Love at the helm. But at the same point in time, they're not where they want to be. And you could say whatever you want to say about Green Bay. You could say, well, they are banged up in offensive line, but we knew that before the season started. We knew that this was going to happen. As a Green Bay fan out there, you just knew that at some point in the season, your offensive line was going to get beat up. Your offensive line, your starting offensive line wasn't going to be there, and you have to still make things work. So for Green Bay, they're doing whatever they can to try to win games, but also, I question Matt LaFleur going forward, because he's always been the one that's been the offensive mind of this team. And when you come out in the beginning of that Detroit game and struggle, and I mean struggle mightily, and you couldn't move the ball, you couldn't put points on the board, and Detroit was just like, going. They were just dominating, flat out dominating, and just taking over the game to the point where that's not a good look for you. That's showing some weaknesses to other teams that are going to be playing you this year, where like we can exploit that. We can exploit that too. And for Detroit, if you're going to be a team competing for this division like we expected you to be, you need to button up. You need to not allow for any team, especially when you got a lead that big in the first half, to even have a sniff of momentum, to even come close to being able to come back and beating you. Dominate from the very beginning all the way and finish the game. So Detroit, they have some lessons to be learned as well. So hopefully the Lions have learned it this far, and they're also getting another key offensive weapon this week in Jamison Williams. So someone that I know a lot of Lions fans are excited to see on the field and see what this offense could really kind of look like.
All right, we've got Nathaniel McCourt in the house with us tonight. He's back. He says, fantasy football update, everybody. He goes, I am now 1-2.
Oh, boy.
Well, I had a bye week in week 3, so they have bye weeks in that league, too. That's interesting.
Well, yeah, you have to have bye weeks. Not every player can play the whole season. But 1-2 with the team that you showed us.
Yeah.
I don't understand how. I don't understand how you're not 3-0.
Oh, yeah, it's tough. But even, too, he said it was a 9-man league, I think, or something.
Yeah, but still.
But, I mean, so they got to be pretty
He's got an all-star team.
Too. I know he does.
And obviously, what comes week to week with fantasy is like some players underperform.
Yeah, but even Justin Jefferson, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns last week, even still for him. So he had to perform for him pretty well. Get some good numbers for him, right?
Unless that's all he had, and he didn't have much after that.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like he wasn't didn't have an amazing performance. He might have had 2 touchdowns, but he wasn't like catching like a ton of balls. So. That's what's interesting about this. And then he goes, I scored 163 points last week and lost. How? I need to know how, Nathaniel, because when you score that many points in fantasy, that's like damn near like impossible to do every week. So if you score 163 points, even then, that should be a win. So the other team that you faced that week must have had like some stellar performances, like with maybe they had like who has Christian McCaffrey in your league? Because I know he went off.
He's
you know what I mean?
going off.
Who had Kenneth Walker the third last week? Because I know he went crazy, had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
You know, so there's some players that if they had them, I know the Seahawks defense, you know, this week went crazy. But all in all, I mean, the league, your league, especially with having 9 teams, everyone must have something like an all-star roster, and then whoever just outscores who wins.
Well, maybe we've learned something this fantasy season now too. Is whoever the Giants are playing, just play that defense. You know, whatever you need. You know what I mean? 'Cause they'll get you good points.
So Nathaniel just said he has McCaffrey. That's one big time, you know, fantasy player that can drum up a lot. I mean, a lot of points. So like guys like that, if he has guys like that all up and down his roster, that could be the reason. He just flat out outscored you.
Yeah. Oh, that happens sometimes. I mean, you'd have a high.
You can have a good
score
one
in even week, but then somebody just happened to have an explosive week as well on top of it.
Yeah, and I don't get mad at that.
Yeah.
Like if my team, here's how I look at it. Because if I put in a good roster, right? If I put in a good roster and everybody pretty much balled out, and then I look at the bench after the week, right? Who scored on my bench? Should I have put in this X guy in instead of this guy? Could I have done better? If I couldn't have done better, then it is what it is. These guys, they scored me points. They did their job, but there's nothing else I could have done. It's out of my hands, and the other team just won. So that's when I don't get mad. I get mad at when, you know, you're looking at your roster afterwards, and you're like, oh, well, 2 or 3 guys really didn't do much of anything. Like, well, let's look at oh, my God, my bench outscored like 5 players on my starting lineup. That's when I get mad. You know, when you miss an opportunity to score the most points possible every week, that's kind of when it really sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting, man. I mean, I haven't followed fantasy in a while, though, so who knows?
Well, you follow football, so you follow fantasy.
Enough. Yeah, I guess so. Joe, what
yes.
do you think so far about what's going on with the Bengals here? I mean, usually they get a slow start, but this is pretty bad.
No,
I mean, a team that was Super Bowl caliber, just you know, last couple of seasons, just to be this inept on offense. You know what I mean? It's one thing defense, you know, and they even lost a couple of spots here, but what you notice, what
you really notice is that the defenses. They have a lot more game film on them. There's a lot more adjustments being made against them. Like they might have had it easy or easier last year. In the year prior, their offense was stellar. But now what I think you're noticing more than anything, it's not personnel problems. It's not injury problems. I mean, yeah, everybody gets banged up here and there. We've seen it so far in 4 weeks. But it's more X's and O's now. It's the defenses that they're facing kind of figured out their offense. They know who their biggest weapons are now. You know, Jamar Chase is not a secret anymore. So he is going to be double teamed week to week. And if nobody can pick up the slack after him, then that's an issue. And you're seeing that. You're also seeing the Bengals, they're not really running the football like they used to with Joe Mixon. They're not. I feel like that's why once they get behind in games, well, the running game goes out the window now. Now you're trying to play catch up. Now you're trying to get the ball down the field quicker and score points faster and try to get back in the game. So that kind of neglects Joe Mixon. So going forward for Cincinnati, they got to figure something out. I don't think their defense is playing bad. I think their defense is kind of what's helping them and stay in games. But man, the offense is just flat out struggling. They're not being able to figure out and make the right adjustments game to game, situation to situation in the right moment to get those points. And until they do that, we're going to continue to see Cincinnati struggle. Not to mention, you can't overlook the fact that Joe Burrow is still hampered by his calf. Now, this week, Joe Burrow claims that it's never felt better, that I'm good. I'm going to be good to go this week. So no worries. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be healthy, and I'm just going to sling the ball around it, and we're going to make things happen. Well, Joe, you're not convincing me because so far up to this point, you're still hampered by it. You can say whatever you want to say, but until we see the stone cold evidence on the field and you being able to perform like seen you perform before, I'm not believing you. We got Nathaniel's chiming in again. It was Josh Allen, McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Garrett Wilson, Diggs, Darren Waller, Mike Evans, Saints defense. Is that your lineup? Was that?
Yeah, I think that's
or that's the other guy's lineup,
No, that's the other guy's.
The other guy had
That's the other guy's
McCaffrey.
lineup. Yeah.
So
Yep, it's the
Darren
other guy's
Waller,
lineup.
wow, Darren Waller didn't do
Didn't do
anything.
anything.
This,
Yeah.
So that's not why you lost. Garrett Wilson didn't really do. I didn't see him do a ton.
He did a little, but yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
not
maybe
enough
yardage.
to
I
make
mean, was it,
a huge
PPR then, right? It must be.
Yeah, but
right?
still,
That's
still not enough to make a huge
That's
dent.
his. Yeah. See, that's what he said.
You know,
That's his, yeah.
Justin Jefferson was my fifth
Fifth
best
best.
receiver. Yeah, see, that's what I was saying.
He scored
Justin Jefferson only scored 30, so he did nothing. He
30's
did more than
decent. 30's decent.
30 is really
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
actually.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I different point system that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
But no, Justin Jefferson, 30 points is really good, but he's your fifth best receiver? That's crazy.
Head scratcher.
What is your-
I don't know.
I mean, honestly, like, okay, Josh Allen, he had a really good week. McCaffrey had a really good week. Pollard had a good week. Wilson was okay. Diggs. Oh, is that Stephon Diggs?
Yeah,
'Cause I
Stephon
can't-
Diggs.
All right. Stephon Diggs,
Yeah,
he
lit
also
it
had a
up.
good.
He lit
I mean,
it
Mike
up.
Evans left the game. So Mike Evans didn't do squat. Waller didn't do squat. The Saints defense, I don't believe they had that good of a day.
See, and Diggs did really well, and so did Josh Allen. So I think the handcuff with those guys ended up working out well for the guy.
Yeah, but that
maybe or
doesn't.
something,
That's
but-
that's just fantasy points.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you bonus points for.
No, it doesn't.
You know
But
what I
I'm
mean?
just saying that's a lot of fantasy points, right there between the two of them.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
my thing is Nathaniel's team is better all around. Kittle gave me 2 points. Well,
No, it's
that's
not.
less
See,
than
yeah,
Waller.
Yeah.
So I mean, unless
Yeah.
you were extremely weak at 3 positions, that's kind of crazy that he still beat you.
Oh, who's his quarterback again? Do you remember?
Nathaniel will tell us.
Yeah,
He'll tell us
Nathaniel,
who's
let
your
us know who your
quarterback.
quarterback is again, because that's why I'm thinking what it really was.
Yeah.
Even at one point, because we'll just say right there, I'd say that's 60 points between Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs at least
Mm-hmm.
with both of them. So there's 60.
And then
right there.
McCaffrey probably
That's just
had
two
like
players.
something like
McCaffrey
40
probably
or
had
50 or
40,
something
yeah,
crazy.
something like that. So you're already at 111 right there.
I don't know what Pollard
and
did.
I don't know. What did he say? The Saints defense? Saints
defense didn't do anything.
nothing either.
No.
Huh. I don't know. Maybe again, I'm sorry, Nathaniel, but maybe your point system in your
He
league
said
is kind of
Watson,
funny
but
too.
he started Purdy because of injury.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, because
that-
of injury.
that was a
Brock
good-
Purdy is just safe, but they run the ball and yeah.
I know, but he did
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
Purdy did good. He didn't do as good as
No.
Josh Allen,
No,
but
no. Yep,
so
yep.
that's probably
Yeah.
where the
Yep.
difference is quarterback, because you were forced to play a different cue,
Mhm.
and then Justin Jefferson showed out, but
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to do enough to obviously make up for a lot of other points that were lost.
Yeah. Oh, that happens, and that's the way fantasy goes for us all, and that's partially why I don't play anymore. But yeah, I mean, Cincinnati, it stinks to go from something like that so promising in what you were doing before,
Still a
and then
lot-
now nothing.
Still a lot of season to play.
But
Still a lot of
Joe,
season to play.
I mean, no, but what do you do even further here? I mean, seeing you got Joe Burrow injured and stuff, chances are you're not going to make the playoffs still.
Well, no, he's
But-
playing.
I know.
It's not like he's out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, what do you do? Do you rest him for a little bit and then even
It's
bring
too
him
late
back?
now. It's too late to rest him. They had the opportunity to rest him.
Well, what if
the
he's
first
even injured
the
enough and
first
he's hurting,
week or
why
two.
don't you just take him out if your season's already done right now?
The first week or two, you had a chance to take him out
Right.
early and rest him and make sure he was 100% to bring him back in week 3. They decided not to do that. Here comes the calf injury back in effect, and now it's lingering on. You didn't win those first 2 games, so really, what was the positive of all that? He's still banged up. You're losing games, and you got nothing to show for it. So now going forward, the best thing to do is pain management. Rest him as much as possible, and every week he's just going to have to play. There's no turning back now. You're not out of the realm of coming back and winning. It's not like the season is lost yet. It's still early. until you get to week 8.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if you rest now a week or so at least, and then you go in, or do you run them like you're saying? And then I haven't looked ahead to see what their bye week. Bye week is week 7,
right.
so do you run them this next couple
Yes.
of weeks here, and then you see what you can do?
Yes, because if you
they
don't,
have a favorable matchup with the Arizona Cardinals next week, but
They'll probably
Cardinals
lose
have
that
been
one.
playing tough. You know, I mean, we've seen them. They're fighters.
Right.
And then you got the Seattle Seahawks. And if they play anything like they just did against the Giants, a lot
Which
of it,
they're
I think,
going
is
to.
just the Giants. But that could be a tough matchup here as well with the way their offense is going. Because right now, they're almost like my Giants, but they're just flip-flops between 31st and 32nd. But 32nd in scoring points and 31st in yardage. And the Giants are on the opposite side of that. So just bad. Offense can't get it going, like you said as well. Can't get the running game going, and I think sit behind Joe Mixon a little bit to try and alleviate some of that pressure on Joe Burrow, so he's not taking so many hits. They're not pinning their ears back and just going after him.
the beginning of the games are critical for Cincinnati going forward. You have to establish the run early on in the game. That way you can open up your playbook and not be so one-dimensional. So and not try to play catch up when you're down.
But yeah. Well, I was just going to say, though, too, the one thing is, too, I think they're one of those teams, sort of like the Giants, where they knew that they had a problem with offensive line, and they keep investing in offensive line to try and help fix this, though, too. But they still, it seems like they can't get it right all the way, and Joe Burrow is taking a lot more hits than he really should.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the problem is when you're spitting and sputtering on offense and you keep trying to attack deep down the field instead of just utilize your tight ends more. Utilize the short game more. Your running back out of the backfield, dump it off to him. You know what I mean? There's definitely different ways to go about moving the football. And so far, teams have figured them out. Let's just be honest. That offense is not, super, hard to figure out. These defensive coordinators every single week are doing their due diligence and getting as much film as they have on Joe Burrow. What are his tendencies are? What does he struggle with in terms of like what kind of a zone concept or defensive formations where it makes it a little easier to confuse him? So there's all these different variables that they're looking at, and they've obviously figured out a formula. So far, these teams are figuring out this is how we can stop Cincinnati's offense, and that's where they start to fall behind. Now the plan to run the ball goes out the window, and now they're just a one-dimensional offense. So early on in games, they have to try to establish the running game early on, whether that be and that doesn't mean you have to hand the ball off all the time. Have Joe Mixon go out in the flat, dump it off to him out in the open, see what he can do after the catch. So Cincinnati just has to figure it out, plain and simple. And with Joe Burrow, they're going to just have to manage that injury as much as possible, as good as they can, and try to get to the bye week to kind of give him a couple weeks of rest until they have to play again. So they're not out of the woods yet. They're not, the season isn't lost yet. It's still early. So until if they just string along losses all the way up to that point, then you can kind of like say, well, we can still fight depending on how far down in the division they are or how far down they are in the rankings. But it's going to be a very, very steep, hill to climb.
Absolutely. He's got a few more comments here with
he said, I started Zach Moss this week, but he didn't do anything. Yeah, Zach Moss wasn't going to do anything anyway. So you must have had a bye week with that running back position that you had.
There aren't no bye weeks yet.
Yeah, there are.
No, it just starts this week. The bye weeks just start this week. They didn't have any bye weeks in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Then why did you start Zach Moss? That's what I need to know.
I don't know. Because, again, we've been playing, all 32 teams have been played in the first 4 weeks here. There haven't been any byes. But that's why I don't get how he even had a bye week like himself. Like, he puts bye weeks in his fantasy league like himself out for a week.
No, you
like,
don't.
That's what seems weird. He said he had a bye week. There aren't any yet. I'm telling you.
You sure there wasn't last week?
Yeah, I'm positive. I am positive.
Because it doesn't make sense why Zach Moss would be
I don't get it.
for you.
Yeah,
I cut the Jets defense to pick up the Bengals. D realized after last week that it wasn't improvement. Bengals D to pick up the Lions defense for this week. Bengals defense, I don't know. Like, with that offense, they're on the field a lot more, but it's also more opportunity for the opposing offense to put more yards on them, to score more on them. I don't know if I would go that route. His kicker gave him 14 points. I mean, that's a good week for a kicker for sure. I don't know how your point system works. Maybe it's more inflated than what a lot of others are. But all in all, I mean, I don't know why you would, Nathaniel. What was the reason behind starting Zach Moss? Like, did you have an injury? Like, did you have I want to know did you have Nick Chubb or something like that you were depending on, and then
I think
you had to go in a different route
at one point? Or something like that.
because
Remember.
yeah.
All right, but Joe, I mean, again, this week, really good games. A lot of close ones. Washington kept it really close with Philadelphia. How about that, squeaking that one out? But again, I think that's one of those things. Like the defense is playing better than what their offense is, and they're one of those teams. I think they really should be dominating, but they kind of let people back in too. It's like once they get their lead, they kind of ease up a little bit and they let Washington back into the game. But either way, Washington's still no slouch at this point with what they have here in Sam Howell.
No.
But they really kept it close here too. Houston, played really well and performed and put Pittsburgh down in Pittsburgh. This could be finally, we talked about it a little bit last season where, they haven't finished fourth since like 1989 or something like that. This maybe looks like that year to where it's going to be the first season that Mike Tomlin hasn't made the playoffs here, in his tenure.
Yeah.
So now where they're actually talking about, and there's people on Twitter obviously reacting to teams and their teams and fans upset to where now they're thinking about he's on the hot seat possibly now tier 2. I think that's a little excessive at this point right now. We'll see how the season goes, but I mean, I don't think you can blame the coach for some of the woes that they had. Maybe
let's just call it for what it is. I mean, honestly, Mike Tomlin's never been known as an X's and O's coach. He never has. He's a player's coach. He's a guy that he gets along with all the players. The players will literally run through a brick wall for him. But again, he's not an X's and O's guy. He's smart. He's a really smart guy, but doesn't make the team better in terms of like calling plays either way. And this isn't the first time that the Steelers have struggled. Last year didn't look so hot. Their offensive line was struggling. Their offense was struggling. Like Kenny Pickett, that was like his year to kind of prove that he should be the starter. And yeah, he struggled sometimes, but sometimes he showed flashes of highlights. And now what you're seeing with the Steelers is they're just not the same. Like the defense is always good. They always have, TJ Watt is a huge reason why, that defensive front is just so, tenacious and after the quarterback and always in the backfield making plays. And, Alex Highsmith on the other side. Another guy who is seen as one of those premier pass rushers on the opposite side. So defensively, they're always solid. They're always good. You don't have to ever worry about that side of the football for them. But offensively, they're just not there. And we thought that with George Pickens, the emergence of him after he was drafted, and Kenny Pickett playing well at times last year, that this offense as a whole, with getting Najee Harris back and healthy and this offensive line hopefully coming together with chemistry, that they would take another big leap going forward, and they would be able to help out the defense and put some points on the board. But so far this year, it's just not happening, and they continue to struggle, and they're getting they're not as successful in terms of getting the wins and finishing games week to week. So, I mean, I just expect kind of the same thing to continue as the season goes, because there's no other reason not to think that. We've seen the Steelers and how they've had a slight decline as a franchise in terms of roster and turnover and what have you. But now it's kind of like an avalanche right now falling into this season where nothing's getting better. It's just kind of stagnant. It's just kind of, flatlined. And until they get some kind of a spark, whether that be maybe a change in the lineup or something like that, or getting a little bit more creative with plays, I don't think we're going to notice anything different for the Steelers.
Absolutely. Here we go. He's got Nathaniel's out here again posting about his team. What did he say?
Said I had the Jets running backs, and they didn't do much. But I saw Zach put up a lot of points those 2 weeks, so I picked him up in free agency and let go of Javonte Williams to get him.
What does he say?
Yeah. So then he goes, both of my Jets running backs were on my bench. However, I started Breece Hall this week over Zach Moss. So you probably should have just started Breece Hall over him anyway. He gives you more of an opportunity to score more points because he is the feature back.
Yep.
Mike Tackett also chiming in. Welcome to the show, Mike. He said, how about 30-year-old Randy Gregory being too old to play for Denver? Fifth highest paid player is what he meant to say on the team. Surely it didn't have anything to go with only having 4 tackles and 1 sack on the year. I'll say this. When you pay a guy $70 million, you don't cut him because you've already invested that kind of money in him. You might as well just keep working with him and playing him because that's just a waste of money. Now, imagine all the guaranteed money they still are going to owe this guy. He's still going to get paid for years to come to not even play for Denver. That's poor mismanagement of finances for the front office of the Denver Broncos and a terrible signing at that.
Yeah. I mean, we see it now constantly, even with Sean Payton there now. You know what I mean? With these issues here. We thought it was funny, too, because we talked about it off the air. We were going to bring it up during our show anyways, the whole thing with Randy Gregory here. And, he's had his issues off the field, stuff like that, and moved from team to team. Sure. But I think overall, too, he's been, okay, but I don't think he's been that stellar type of guy, I think, for your defense
never has.
there as well. So, I mean, for him to be, one of your top 5, highest paid on your roster, I think that's an issue altogether. And it deals with the franchise and what they are as a whole and what they're trying to do to move forward, and they were desperate to try and get something. Now you saw it with the trade with Russell Wilson and giving him that guaranteed money before he even knew if he was really completely healthy or how he was going to play. And now, they're probably going to end up suffering for that too as well. Nathaniel says Breece Hall put up 9.9 last week. However, Zach put up 9. Yeah, so
Breece Hall was better.
Lose some sometimes. There you go. So yeah, you still lose. All right, yeah, but and Joe, talking about some of the latest news and things like that, a couple players are going to be returning back to their teams, and there's some other different storylines behind some of that, or what kind of impact can they have for their team. Let's talk about the Rams and Cooper Kupp. They're probably ecstatic to get him back. In between, since then, you've been able to see the fact that Matthew Stafford has actually been getting comfortable with some other wide receivers, instead of a Cooper Kupp, you know what I'm saying? Yep. And falling into that spot to where, he's just got to give this one guy the ball the whole time. And we saw Atwell a little bit, but Puka Nacua, big time player for this team, has been doing well here too. Unfortunately, though, even too for that team, Matthew Stafford got wrecked last week, injured and stuff and banged up. But the tough player that he is stuck in the game and ended up pulling out the victory in the last seconds here of this game. To get it done. That one went to overtime as well, and I mean. It was tough for them, but they're happy to get him back now. And I think right now they're in a better spot than even I kind of expected them to be right now. So for them to get a Cooper Kupp back here for this offense, I think would be really great for them and open it up a little bit more too. Because now when you see guys like Puka Nacua here and Atwell, not your star guys, you have Cooper Kupp to get there. It spreads it out a little more. So even if they do try to cover, Cooper Kupp on a double or something like that, he has confidence in getting it to some of those other guys. Like I don't think he really never did with a Van Jefferson before, and some of those other Skoranek he had before with the team. These are, I think better off, and it's helped Matthew Stafford in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, you mentioned how Stafford's getting more comfortable with other receivers. Puka is one of the most underrated rookies coming out, and he kind of just splashed on the scene and just took over games. Like, the guy came in and nobody thought anything of him, and until he started to get like 15 targets on average a week, the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then to capitalize that and have 10 catches each week and just kind of racking up yards, racking up statistics, getting touchdowns. And it's kind of opened up this offense. Now, before the season started, we talked about this Rams team And we alluded to how the offense is still going to be strong. That's not going to be a weak point. But we just weren't sure how good the defensive side was going to be. Having a large group of players leaving in free agency, you know what I mean? And a lot of changes happening there with adding young talent through the draft and free agency. We just weren't really sure how good they could be. But, man, have they surprised a lot of people, because they're not only, like, not decent, but they're actually better than expected. They can play defense really well, even with Ramsey leaving and having a hole there at corner. They've inserted these younger corners that have kind of taken on the role by themselves and taken it with no second thoughts and just rolling with it. So all across the board, this defense is definitely way better than anticipated. But the offense, now with Cooper Kupp coming back, it just gets even harder to defend. They have Kieran Williams in the backfield, and you have with Puka, and now you add Cooper with Van Jefferson. Tyler Higbee, has been coming on at the last couple of weeks with some productivity there. So you're going to see an offense that's going to end up becoming very difficult to stop. And unless you have a defense that is like sideline to sideline stacked up with talent, it's going to be very difficult to prevent them from scoring. So this is a huge addition for the Rams. Obviously, we know about Cooper Kupp and how much he brings to the table. And the Rams are super ecstatic, like you said, to get him back this week. Hopefully, I mean, there's no guarantee that he's going to start right away. I don't know if he'll be put on a pitch count at all, but it sounds like he's going to be 100% healthy. So let's just see what Cooper can do with his first week back in football. I don't expect him to kind of, go in and have these game-breaking days on Sunday, because he hasn't been with the team. He hasn't been practicing. You know what I mean? He's not in football shape. So I wonder how long and how good his stamina is to stay in the games. But we're going to see this Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another big name, returning to their team is Jonathan Taylor, and that's going to be potentially big here for the Indianapolis Colts, and for me, even that they've been kind of a surprise for me as well, because you see them putting up a pretty good fight here too.
Last week they did.
We thought they were again a team. You look at them like they're kind of rebuilding in a sense of just trying to. So many seasons trying to find that right type of quarterback to get them over the hump. And we figured even with a rookie quarterback at the helm, it was going to be a little bit of a rough patch, especially without having, a Jonathan Taylor here. But they've been competitive. They've been in a lot of close games, and pulled out some victories here. And they show some potential. And I think that's good even for like a Jonathan Taylor to come back to and see this and like, hey, we're still competitive too. And I think if I'm on this roster here with this team too, and I'm contributing, and it's not just even all me now, and they can actually do it without me too as well, we can do this. If I stick together and we work together as a team and stay with them, and still be able to get what I want eventually after this year contract's up or whatever, do I stay with them and work it out, instead of just walk away, and say, I just want my big money wherever I'm going. We can win here. And I think that's key for them going forward in this season. If they can pull up and string up some victories here together and be over 500, I think that's key with this scenario that's going on with a Jonathan Taylor.
I mean, currently now they are 500. They're 2-2. So I mean, they're almost there. Yeah. One more win and they could be above 500. So, and speaking of the Rams that we talked about, for this last matchup, they played the Colts. This is a game where I thought it was going to be a washout. I really did. I expected the Rams to kind of, once they started to get a lead, I thought they were going to pour it on. But I'll tell you right now, and we alluded to it when Anthony Richardson came out in the draft. What can he do extremely well? Run. That was one thing. He's a gigantic human being, and for him to be as big as he is at 240 pounds, at 6'6", and can run a 4.4 and is very quick on top of it, it's insane. And that's kind of really what kind of helped propel this offense to be able to get into scoring position, to be able to get some of these touchdowns, because you saw this past Sunday where almost like it's Patrick Mahomes-esque, where it's all these freelance plays because it's a breakdown in a play. Now Richardson had to make something out of it, make something, out of nothing. And he did. He used his legs, and he did, we've seen this play before from Mahomes where he'd run towards and threaten to go in for the end zone. And when the defense converges on him, he just kind of drops it over top right to his wide open receiver. He did that in this game against the Rams. They didn't have an answer for him. Whenever plays broke down and he was able to escape, it made it extremely difficult, and it stressed on this defense to the point where they just didn't have an answer. So you look at Richardson, what he can do with his legs, great. I'm still waiting to see what he can do with his arm, though, because let's face it, you're drafted to play quarterback, not be another Lamar Jackson. They want you to be more of a dual threat to where you can make all the throws and everything. And we saw some highlighted throws where they were right where they needed to be, and the receivers made the catch, but we needed to see more consistency. So for the Colts going forward, great for them. They are 500 right now. Thought they would be 0-4 right now, and they're proving a lot of people that, hey, we are not out of it just yet. We are still going to give everything we got and be as creative as possible and try to keep teams on edge.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about even some teams here too that were had some rough patches now.
Real quick before you get to that, with Jonathan Taylor though, him coming back. Now there's some reports out there that are saying that, well, the trade, he still wants to be traded. Yeah. That's still on the table, and it is. But a lot of people are speculating, well, is he going to even come back and play for them now? Because he wants to be traded. Now, what's the sense of you coming back? What if you get hurt again before the trade deadline, before a trade's even consummated, and now you're stuck? Like, now you can't be traded. So that's an interesting scenario for Taylor. He wants to prove that he's healthy. So the only way to do that is to play.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also don't want to risk injury because now you definitely are not getting traded. So for Taylor and the Colts obviously wanted to sign a long-term deal. Didn't happen. Looks like both parties have agreed that at the very least that they are going to part ways. The Colts are still looking for a trade partner, and Taylor's still in waiting. So until that happens, I think Taylor's going to come back and play for the Colts just to show everybody else out there that might have been interested early on that, hey, no, I'm good. Legs are good. I'm healthy. I'm ready to go. I can play. And maybe that's all they need. Maybe they need a week or two of watching him play to then you're going to start to see maybe 4 or 5 teams line up at the door and say, hey, we're interested. What do you want?
Yeah. I mean, they've only got till week 8 to figure it out for at least for this season, going forward to be able to pull that off.
Well, that's the thing. If they don't trade him, he's a free agent. And they're not going to tag him. So he'll just walk scot-free. The Colts want nothing more than to be able to trade him right now. Get something for him instead of getting nothing.
I think there'll definitely be suitors there around that time, especially because that's mid season. Now we have the extra game, but teams are going to be vying for that that playoff spot or what can push them over the edge, especially with injuries the way they've been happening again. Yeah, they do everything to make the game safer all the time, but it just seems like injuries are just popping up left and right here, throughout
as
the
always.
season.
As always.
So somebody's going to be desperate enough to do something, but I think what it might even come down to, though, is really what if or how low will the Colts go on what they're asking, because their asking price is going to be a lot.
It's a first rounder already.
You know what I mean?
That's the start of it.
What will it eventually pan out to when it comes down to those last waning hours of the trade deadline? And we know we have shows right after that, Joe. I mean, we go live like pretty much right after the 4 o'clock hour of that day. It goes down, and we hear all kinds of situations that happen and stuff like that right there. So we're going to be excited to talk about it when it goes down. And who knows? I bet you we won't find anything out until around that time, the last remaining minutes here.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, with Jonathan Taylor in his situation, like, it's very few teams that are going to be willing to trade and give up a first rounder to start. I don't know how much more they're going to be able to get. I think that's all that's the highest I think they'll be able to get is just one first rounder to get them. Because a lot of teams are going to make the argument, well, like, yeah, well, we're getting an injured player, we're not really sure how healthy he actually is. Like, okay, yeah, we saw him play, but they're going to make that argument. And it's going to be interesting to see how many teams at all are going to be interested in him. One team that comes to mind is the Rams. They're in need of a featured running back right now. All they got is Kieran Williams. And if they were to add Jonathan Taylor, that might really boost up this offense to the point where they could really just kind of come right back into the running of the division, of a playoff appearance. A lot of things could go well. But we've talked about this before where the Rams have, mortgaged the future with their draft picks, trades, and everything like that to this point where, like, what do they really have right now? Do they have draft picks to dispose or to be able to obtain them? Other than that, when I look at all the rest of the teams, I'm just not seeing anybody that's going to be willing to trade for him, honestly. Like, the Rams are the only team that come to mind that I feel like could be in a position where we already know they're going to be competitive. But, man, if they were able to add a talent like that, that could put them over the hump to where they could really make even a playoff berth.
Yeah, it's tough because even, too, with running back scenarios and how even money is laid out with some of these guys, who knows? Yeah, everybody else pretty set with what they're doing. So it's tough.
And the other part of this is if you trade for him, you still have to sign him long term.
Yeah.
It's not out of the realm where you're going to give up a high draft pick, maybe a couple draft picks, whatever it's going to be. But in the end, you're giving up future draft capital and money for to keep them long term. So right. I mean, it's kind of a very difficult situation for not only the team that is perhaps going to trade for him, but also the Colts. Because if they don't get it done, then you're in jeopardy of just not getting anything. So I think all the leverage is any team that's interested in him. That's where all the leverage is, because you can come back and say, well, we'll just wait till he's a free agent.
Wait till he's a free agent.
We don't have to do a deal. We don't have to do a deal. Yes, we might have to compete with other teams to sign him, but we'd rather do that than give you guys, a first-round pick and then something else.
Yeah, and then plus having to figure out what he wants, while he's on the active roster here for you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, teams I think that haven't been used to losing and things like that and going through some growing pains. I'm wearing a shirt right now. Remember, it was everyone versus the New England Patriots. Joe,
right, it still is.
Tom Brady and stuff. Yeah, but still, Patriots fans, I feel like they still, they're sticking behind their team though. Let me give you that much credit though, because it seems like all the Patriots fans came out of the woodwork all of a sudden when they're Tom Brady era.
Well, give it a minute. Give it a minute.
But yeah, people were quick to hate on Mac Jones and things like that, and it's understandable for even some of the things he pulls off on the field and how they think he's a douchebag and hurting people, hitting people unexpectedly in the nuts and everywhere else and stuff, dirty player. But right now their offense, 30th in the league. Defense has kind of held them a little bit in the game here, but they're all banged up. Now Matt Judon's banged up too as well.
Christian Gonzalez is out for the year.
Gonzalez is out for the season here.
Yep. And what does that mean?
Yeah.
That means they pull off a huge trade.
Yeah.
And this is crazy because when me and Jim were talking about this off the air, I honestly can't understand this trade. J.C. Jackson, I get it. He was banged up with the Chargers and all that. But Chargers decide to trade him back to the Patriots for a 6th and a 7th rounder in 2025. And it's just a draft pick swap.
Yeah.
It's not like they're getting 6th and 7th rounder.
No, they just swapped.
They just swapped those picks in 2025. And on top of it all, the Chargers agreed to pay the majority of his deal. Exactly. Like you basically, hey, you guys are down a corner. Here, take our starting corner. Like just bring him back to New England, and then I understand he's had his struggles in L.A. too. He hasn't been the former Pro Bowler that he once was with L.A. I don't know if it was because of the difference in defensive scheme or him being banged up all the time, but we're gonna find out because now he's back at home. He's back in New England again. That defense he knows very well. That's where he made it, had all his success. So it just baffles me that the trade that happened. Like a team that literally just gave up the player, got really nothing, and oh, by the way, we're also going to pay most of the tab. So Patriots, kudos to them. They play their Jedi mind tricks on yet another team and get what they want for nothing.
Yep.
So
They do it again. Once again.
I mean, I'm curious to see how it all works out
It
for
is
J.C.
funny
Jackson.
how that happens too. Again, New England Patriots player leaves, goes to another team, gets their money, and does okay. But not horrible, but not it's stupendous to be that.
He hasn't
number
been
one
that
guy
great. He hasn't been that great.
Been able to be. That's what they were hoping to do because he was just coming out when he was with New England. Like, oh, this guy's a star.
He was a stud,
and it hasn't panned out, and ends up falling back in with New England, and he'll probably do well for him.
And Nathaniel chimed in. He said, I had to step away for a second, but did I miss the picks? No, you did not,
No,
Nathaniel.
we're getting there pretty soon.
We're getting there. And Tom Leiter says, go Hawks.
We got Tom Leiters in the house with us tonight, Joe. Holy moly, it's been a little bit for him.
It's been a while, Tom. I'm glad
absolutely.
you're here.
Yeah,
Glad you're
absolutely.
here.
So yeah, I mean that's an interesting trade. It helps out with them again, New England. Hopefully that'll help them moving forward for them because they've been in games. Or last week, not so much or whatever here, but they had opportunities again.
Yeah, they did.
And it was penalties and things like that, and just. Because again, Dallas even defensively, I don't think really did stupendously against them. Like really did a whole lot to make it look that good for them. I mean, I think it was just a good overall team win, and New England just made a lot of mistakes.
Well, something that you also noticed in that game is like we all know that Patriots defense is usually pretty stout, usually pretty good. They're hard to move the ball on, but something that I've been noticing this year early on with the Cowboys offense is that they usually do extremely well when defenses play zone. And the Patriots play a lot of zone. And you could just see they just got exposed here and there, just finding windows to get rid of the ball. And that's kind of how they went down the field on the Patriots. So, and then you look at the Jets. When the Jets played the Cowboys, and they played a lot of zone. We don't know why, because they have the personnel to play man, but they played a lot of zone nonetheless, and they got exposed. And it's like, when is a defense going to come in to, go to Dallas or Dallas come to them, and they're going to be like, well, we're not going to play zone. We're going to play man-to-man because we can, and we're going to make it very difficult for Dak Prescott to give anybody the ball.
Yep. Now, Joe, talk about the Jets real quick before we get into some other stuff. How about that? I mean, they surprised me on Sunday night. Again, I thought this was going to be like, all right, not that the Chiefs are a superpower anymore and things like that. I think they're definitely still good. But with Zach Wilson, the way they've been playing here too, it's like, oh, this is the matchup they wanted when they thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be here. Rodgers versus Mahomes. But with Zach Wilson there and with the mistakes that he's had, he played pretty well for most of the game last week. He made some really good throws on point, back shoulders. I mean, it was like when he was driving, and it seemed like they even went like no huddle. It seemed like took the thinking out of it. He performed better in a sense instead of trying to sit back, read play, the defense, and then try and do something. He made some good plays, and it's almost even sometimes if it wasn't for a couple of drops by his teammates where he put the ball spot on. Yeah. They had the opportunity to win this game, absolutely.
And that's the other thing, too, is Zach Wilson. He might have heard how much I bitched about him last week.
Terrible as well, too.
I mean, because I bitched about him last week, maybe it lit a fire under his ass, and he finally stepped up. Yeah. So, but hey, Zach Wilson, like we were this past week against the Chiefs, not only was it against a big, tough opponent to face in a national stage where a lot of stuff could have went wrong for Zach. A lot could have went wrong. He impressed a lot of people. He showed people that, hey, I still have talent. I can play in this league, and I'm getting better. And that's something that the Jets have been waiting to see from him. Since Rodgers' exit, they've been waiting to see Zach Wilson 2.0. And now we saw a glimpse of it. Hopefully he can continue to get better as the season goes on. But against a big opponent like the Chiefs, and I had no worries about the Jets' defense against the Chiefs. I thought the Jets' defense, that's why I kind of alluded to it last week where I thought that this might be closer than people anticipate just because of the Jets' D. I thought they were going to give them fits, and they definitely did. Just their front four was wreaking havoc on that Chiefs offense. So that really helped out. Getting the ball back quite often and giving Zach Wilson more opportunities, more chances to score points. And that's what really kind of kept this team in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Mahomes making a lot of mistakes, a few interceptions, just did not look at all good at all and comfortable at all either. Tom Leiter says sitting behind a legend, Aaron Rodgers had to help learn a lot. And I think so.
For sure.
I mean, in the offseason as well.
And honestly, Rodgers was on the sideline for
Yeah.
that game for the first time since
he
his
was
injury.
in the box, yeah.
And I wonder if he, maybe had a pep talk before the game or just some inspiring words or something. Like, I'll be watching, kid, because that's his idol. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny how they pan back and forth between him and Taylor Swift for some reason. Here we go.
Yeah, right. Who cares?
Yeah, right.
Who cares?
All right. So yeah, definitely. I mean, we had some really good games this week.
Some
the
really poor
seasons are
games too.
crazy. Yeah,
There were some really bad games because teams that had a big lead or even a lead at all going into like the second half or late into the game, and for them to relinquish it and just give the games away, that was insane to me. Like that Chicago game was absolutely like the most imploded team I've ever seen. Like to have a big lead like that, and you allowed the Broncos to not only just come back, but just flat out beat you. So I mean, there was games like that that kind of drove you nuts, and I know fans at home were losing their minds for their respected teams. But nonetheless, it's another week, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about teams like that though, and like they say the Chicago Bears, they're 0-4 and stuff like that, but they still they put forth a lot more effort than my team and the New York Football Giants, Joe. This past Monday here, or couple nights ago, got spanked again by the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not saying that they're a slouch at all or anything
No, they're a really good team.
They're a pretty good team here too as well, but I still think, and when you're looking at this team, the way they were last year with Brian Daboll, and it's fair to say they had less talent last year than what they did this year.
Yes.
Especially in the receiver room. Get smoked like that. You know what I mean? And I didn't think their offense was really great last year, at least even with the play calling, things like that. Offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka, not really that impressed. But again, we're going to see how we're going to do. The Brian Daboll effect, everything. Look at Daniel Jones performing well enough that he gets another contract. There's a lot of incentives in that whole thing, and he has to perform a certain way. And it's set up that after a year, they can get out of it. Now, with the way this season has kind of played out so far, that could be the bigger scenario right now. And there's question marks going on with that whole thing, because right now New York is up in a tizzy right now, flipping out. They want to blame Brian Daboll, say he's terrible now.
No, that's not true.
That's what's going crazy on Twitter, and backlash back at Daniel Jones again. Now just quitting on Daniel Jones, saying, "All right, he's definitely not the guy. He just sucks. We got to get rid of him." So it's just crazy how you go from a team that last year overperformed, looked like this year they could be trending further up in the season, and be this terrible,
Underperform.
undisciplined, not anything remotely close to what they looked like last year.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is right now for the Giants. They are underperforming. They're not playing at the same caliber they did a year prior with more talent. But on the other side of the coin, you could also say, who do they have right now? Because their offensive line's beat up. Andrew Thomas is still banged up. And Evan Neal, as disappointing as he has been, he's better than the guy that's out there. So, losing a big part of your offensive line right now, not having Saquon Barkley at your disposal, which was kind of what was helping them last year move the football, it makes the team one-dimensional because no one's fearing Matt Breida. No one's really fearing even your receiving core right now. So to be already one-dimensional, as soon as you step on the football field, no one's worried about Breida. They can stop him easy. The offensive line is struggling to block, pass protection, and run blocking. There's not a whole lot to like right now. And until they get healthy, until they get right, and Daboll needs to just flat out take over the play calling full time, because that's the only time that they've had any success is when that man was calling the plays. Mike Kafka, they might as well just fire him because he's just a waste of space. We've seen
I think
it.
so as well. I really think they really just got to let him go even by now.
Yeah,
the way it
and
started out, that would be even a
Right.
restart even right now. Say all of a sudden, because heads start to fall, as things are going bad anyways. What we've seen so far is terrible and the offense just isn't going. And we've seen it multiple times on the television screen. You can see the difference when Brian Daboll has the play call, the sheet right here, right in front of him,
Yep.
and he's doing a lot more with it, being a little more active on the sidelines with it. He needs to take full control of this, and I think really to get even a difference or a shakeup even, to let people even know who's in charge and who's doing this, he needs to take command of this.
Mm-hmm. And that's Tom Leiter just chimed in. He goes, Witherspoon.
Yes,
And he
absolutely.
said
Yeah.
Giants
Looks
O-line
good.
was almost as beat up as Seattle Seahawks. But here's the difference, is you guys have better players.
Yeah.
You got better players in
your
waiting.
second depth, because we even
Yes.
saw, even look at the Giants in preseason. One thing you can take from preseason is the difference of your depth between your starters and
Right.
then the drop off to your backups.
Yep.
And the Giants were terrible in the offseason, and they barely played their starters even too. And
Tom Leiter, thanks for the comments, by the way.
yeah, absolutely.
Keep them coming.
And so when you saw it went to that next tier of guys, you're like, oh shit, now I know why this other guy's starting right now here. And so even though I'm not impressed with a bunch of them, like you said, Bredesen I think is terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had to be your starter at one point here too. It's terrible. And I mean, John Michael Schwartz, he was doing Schmitz. Yeah, he was doing all right here too, but he's injured. And then you had to move Bredesen over to his spot. And things
Not
like
to
that.
mention,
So now you're shuffling guys
he
around.
he got injured because of the quarterback sneak and then pushing on top of him, and he ended up getting injured. So, that's really not good because you lose your center, your quarterback of your offensive line. Now all hell's going to break loose.
Yeah, and so much even too now the Giants go and reach out and they sign Justin Pugh, a former Giant here too, try and get him back. They're
Something.
like, hey,
Gotta get something here.
A familiar face with the organization. You know, to hopefully help them out, to give them something. A veteran.
Honestly,
But it's tough.
I'm
you know
surprised.
the difference between, like you said, even the difference with the drop off of an Andrew Thomas and then the next tackle they had behind him, just overexposed. Not even look like he was putting. He looked like he was trying on the sidelines. He's huffing and puffing, and just like, oh my god! But over his head, not even able to put a hand on a guy.
Honestly, I'm surprised that the Giants aren't dipping into the free agent more.
Yeah.
There's some older vets that can still play at a high level. That just because of their age doesn't mean that they're washed up. Like, you bring them in, they're probably 10 times better than the guys that you got out there starting. So that's something that they might have to do even more going forward to kind of get this, this ship right. But for the Giants, going forward, I don't have any real big issues with the defense. I think Wink Martindale is doing a good job and calling it. But when your defense is playing more than your offense, that's also a big problem.
Well, again, but their defense, not doing so well either, putting up points. I get it. It's been to your break, eventually with some of it. But
You get tired.
penalties on top of it, too. Some of the defensive penalties they're doing. I mean, even that Isaiah Simmons, hit outside, they didn't call that one, but
It didn't count.
Obviously, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, but even that fired up Geno Smith, he was pissed off about that the whole game. But some of the things that they were doing like that, I mean, just not staying in the game and actually hurt your team some more. You know what I mean? And you can't do that, especially in a situation with a game like that. You let your emotions take over. And then, like I said, it reminded me a lot of what was going on with Joe Judge, just not disciplined at all. And that's not what we've ever heard of, like a Brian Daboll here. He usually has control of the locker room. They like him. They fight for him. And it just seems like they were just wild and out of control in that game, that Seattle game.
And that's more on Wink Martindale. It's not Daboll. Like, Daboll's not coaching the defense.
But even there, but it was even special teams. It was all around.
That's more on the coaching staff.
Not
Daboll, though.
He's the head coach. He's got to take responsibility for it somewhere.
But not not defensive side. Defensive side, those players are going to play for Daboll regardless because of how good of a coach he is. But it's up to Wink Martindale. It's his responsibility to keep them in line, to check them when he needs to check them. They do something stupid, he needs to be the first one that they see, and he's in their ear. That's really what it comes down to. Special teams, that's on special teams coach. You need to be out there yelling at your players that are screwing up. And that's where the discipline comes in. So Daboll, we've already seen flashes of him doing that with random players. It's up to the rest of the coaches to follow suit. And until that happens and they get it all kind of back together again, that's why you're seeing like the defense. You're seeing the special teams do some, wild plays that they shouldn't be doing. So for the Giants, Like I said before, like there's a long way to go still, but they
And again,
still have an
I
opportunity
think-
to correct it, but it has to be corrected quickly.
But I think Kafka is the answer to is getting him loose again, because you even look at what happened when they panned to Brian Dable when they were third, and it was long, but not out of hand. You're down, and you weren't exactly pinned against your end zone, but you were on your side of the field,
Mhm.
and you ran the ball. And this was early.
Mhm.
You had time in this game. And you heard the fans moan, too. And you see even Dable
Yeah.
all of a sudden roll his eyes like,
He's just like, you kidding me?
wow, we just called, an inside zone on 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12 or something like that.
That's giving
Like,
up.
are you-
That's
yeah.
what that is.
You're already giving up. You were
giving up.
planning to punt, and that's what got
Yeah.
Joe Judge sent home and out of the freaking organization. It's crazy. I got more to talk about this in just a second, but Tom Leiter says, was picking Spoon before Jalen Carter the right move. I hated it draft day, but it turns out John and Pete know more than I do. In his opinion, who knows? Well, right now it looks like you can't go wrong with either. I mean, Jalen Carter looks like even the best team right now for the Eagles. But I mean, let me tell you, Witherspoon looks super in his speed too as well, man. Once he had that pick too, especially, dude, just gone. Lights out, balling.
Witherspoon was my number one player coming out in the draft. I didn't have a quarterback ahead of him. I didn't have Jalen Carter ahead of him. Just because of Carter's past is why he slid a little bit lower for me. But Witherspoon to me was the number one best player coming out in my eyes.
But-
When he slid down the draft to Seattle, I'm like, oh, Raiders are picking right after that. I'm like, please let him go. Don't take him.
Let's not
And then
blow up the
Seattle took him,
situation though either too though. The one
What's that?
With the scoop up and the fumble recovery for a touchdown, that guy came in unblocked, blasted Daniel Jones. The interception, Daniel Jones was just staring down Wan'Dale Robinson or Paris Campbell anyways. And I don't even know if they were supposed to do that same type of route because you had 2 out routes going right there. And I think Paris Campbell even had an option where he was going to cut back or go out. And he just threw towards both of them. So both defenders even bit up both on that. So it was a bad altogether. Daniel Jones, no matter what, he already predetermined and made up his mind before that play was run who he was going to throw it to. Did not give it a chance to develop, not even get anybody. Darren Waller was just getting open across the middle. If he held the ball a little bit longer, after he's staring down, Paris Campbell, look to the middle, dish it to Waller, it's a touchdown.
Yeah,
But he already made it, predetermined who he was going to throw it to
Right.
ahead of time. It was going to be a bang play because even with those short routes, that's what you kind of got to do, and that's what you suffer for. You were in the red zone on like the 1 or 2 yard line, Joe. You're expected to score there at that point.
It's
especially
not
what they were going.
It's nothing new to me. Daniel Jones has been doing this a long time. I mean, this is not surprising. We haven't seen him take that big leap forward. He got the big deal because he fought hard and tough through last season, and they didn't want to kind of hit the reset button just yet on Daniel Jones. They wanted to see him progress further, and they're not seeing that. I mean, this is
Right.
not surprising to a lot of Giants fans. This is not surprising to anybody that's even watched the Giants play. And honestly, like, I have finally seen enough of Daniel Jones in a Giants uniform.
And he says, Tom Leiter says, Spoon said after the game that Jones wasn't going through his progressions.
No.
And that you can say that because Daniel Jones said himself after in the press conference.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I got to get quicker at doing and
It's a
reading
little
everything,
late,
but,
Danny.
but again, in his defense again, too, when you only got a second and a half until you're getting hit, I mean, it's tough to do any kind of, go through any kind of progressions because you're progressing to
There's
the ground.
no progressing.
Yeah, you're regressing every single time. So it's tough. So that's why I'm thinking he even had a predetermined who he's going to get it to just so he could, all right, I got to get this out quick because I'm going to get hit in no time flat. So I'm just going to go bang, bang.
It
But
affects a quarterback
ends
when
up
you
being
don't have
bad.
protection, and
Now-
he knows he doesn't.
I think in a sense now, let's look at Saquon Barkley coming back again. He potentially could. He was limited in practice. He comes back. He can help this team moving forward. They're definitely better when he's in the game on this roster, when he's with the team. He's got a 1-year deal here. They're going to have to structure his contract, trying to figure something out to keep him here, this year before he's a free agent. He's seen enough losing, I think, though, too, Joe. I mean, I think of the times where he's on the sidelines just watching them and just constantly. We've seen players I think Garrett Bowles is one of them too. He's like, dude, I'm tired of losing. You know, for the. I just feel like there's a point even with some of these players where even they're trying to get a structured contract, trying to get a new contract with teams where they're like, you know what, I'm tired of this, dude. Because even if I get my money in this, are we gonna suck again? I'm tired of sucking. I want to go to a contender. I want to get paid somewhere else, and I'll even take a pay cut even to go somewhere else. So even after this season, if it ends up being a losing season again for Saquon Barkley, after he's seen losing season after losing season after losing season, don't you think maybe at the end of this season he wants to say, I'm getting healthy now. I want to go play for a winner now, and I'll get money there and just move on because I'm tired of losing?
I think it's going to come down to what the Giants do in terms of moves after the season. Are they going to move on from Daniel Jones? Are they going to look for the next quarterback in their eyes?
But does he want to be there for that even too?
That's the only thing, because Saquon has seen Daniel Jones. He knows his struggles. He knows him. So if they're going to turn the page and be like, okay, well, we're going to go in a different direction at quarterback, and we're going to look to obviously upgrade a lot of positions as much as we can, then you might be able to talk Saquon into staying. But if you're not making any changes, if you're going to stick with Daniel Jones another year, then I could suspect that Saquon might say, oh, well, if this is the direction you're going in as an organization, I don't want to be a part of it, because I know what he's capable of. And it's not being the starter and carrying the team. It's a guy who's just filling the shoes and is just there because he's not making as much money as some other quarterbacks. But, hey, we can work around him. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be a deterrent for Saquon Barkley for the offseason.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, as a Giants fan, I feel terrible. Again, this sucks, but at least this year, again, for my picks, it makes it easy. I'm picking them to lose every week, so it makes me feel better to get that win every single time.
Now that we spent a long time on the Giants, let's get to some picks.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to do our first, Joe, the segment that has made a return this season.
Oh, which one is that?
It's your decapitation of the week.
Banned in most countries, but not here. It's time for your decapitation.
Absolutely. Joe, walk us through the decapitation. What is it here?
Honestly, this week for hits was very disappointing. I didn't really see a ton of great hits. There were some good ones, but this one in particular was probably the better of the ones, where Kyle Duggar just absolutely stones the receiver for the Cowboys coming over the middle and sends him packing backwards. Stops him right in his tracks. So that to me, that was the epitome of decapitation of the week for this week. And honestly, a lot of them were very, very disappointing. Some of them were just plain normal tackles. I don't even know why it was in the biggest hits video that
by the way, shout out to Ding Productions, who sends those to us every single week.
Ding Productions is where you can find more of those videos. We also post them in our group. Also, he doesn't just do biggest hits. He also does scoring highlights. He does all kinds of things. So make sure you head over to YouTube and maybe drop a subscription there for him. Check him out. But yeah, I mean, overall, this week was it was lackluster for big hits. There was a couple of them. There was one in particular where would have definitely been a home run for this week, but the player did not finish the tackle. Yeah, he hit him really hard. He hit Kadarius Toney really hard and made him spin backwards and then stumble forward.
Rocked him, yeah.
But man, if he finished with a wrapping up with, that would have been easy.
Absolutely. So here it is. You've been talking about it, long awaited. So is Nathaniel Hackett here. It's the picks competition, Joe. Here we are. I had a bounce back week. I had 13
Definitely
wins
had a real
and
big
3
bounce
losses here. So I'm at the lead here at 43 and 21. You got 40 and 24 here. So it's still early. And this year, again, a big surprise here, up and down. So throughout the season, it's going to be a roller coaster. I still don't know what we're going to see this week, But Thursday night games, Amazon, again, these games have kind of been stinkers for Amazon. I feel bad sometimes with these guys. Last week ended up being a closer game, though, which was kind of cool for them. But again, these you think they would hand them something here with Amazon, trying to showcase, whatever they have here, and let's give them a good Thursday night games. And they haven't been really given a whole lot. But One thing I will say about Washington, though, I'm intrigued now with the way they've been able to play here. I'm intrigued in how they're going to play against Chicago. And will Chicago be able to they've been able to score points, but will they be able to, hold off this Washington defense here and actually pull out a win? But it's going to be tough there for Washington.
Yeah, I mean, Washington, they've been competitive every single week. Chicago, man, they had a win. They had the win last week. They gave it. Yeah, they let them off the hook, exactly. The Broncos, they let them right back in the game in the second half. Come all the way down from like 28-7, 28-3. I forgot what the score was at that time, but a big margin. And for the Broncos to come back and win that, Chicago, what's going on?
He starts to come, and then he pulls out.
I mean, craziness. So, I mean, going into this week, if you're a football fan, you can't have any confidence in Chicago. Like, Justin Fields played really good football last week, played really well, distributing the football, running when he had to run. Like, the offense was really clicking. And then the defense forgot how to play. But Washington, I like Washington, what they've been able to do with Sam Howell, quarterback. And this team has kind of surprised some people, week to week. So because Washington's home and because I have no faith in Chicago, I'm going with Washington.
All right. Here you go. Joe goes with Washington. Nathaniel Hackett says he got 5 losses last week. So
Tom Leiter said nobody is going to be watching that Thursday game.
Yeah, I know. And what's funny is even last week they openly admitted how shitty they were. You got
to remember, though, too, is these schedules are done well in advance.
Yeah.
It's not like they're doing them week to week or anything. So they do the whole schedule for the whole entire season before we even get to training camp. So, I mean, they probably thought that this would end up being a good game. They figured with Chicago's revamp of offense and Fields coming back another year, and then Sam Howell being another new quarterback up and coming, they might have thought that this was going to be a good matchup initially.
Yep. So, yeah, and I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders, too, as well. All right, next Sunday, we've got Jacksonville and Buffalo. This is another London game.
This Sunday at 9:30 a.m.
in London. By the way, Joe, did you ever watch the Toy Story game?
I saw a little bit of it.
I saw pieces or highlights kind of it. I wanted to watch it, though, again, but I still think it's kind of weird looking, though. Like, it's almost like
it's supposed
terrible
to be animated,
3D, like animated. It's weird.
I don't know. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know.
You're not a kid anymore, Jim. That's probably why.
But I still like cartoons or whatever. But it just seemed like one of the the difference between like DreamWorks or Disney when they do a cartoon movie, and then you see like a foreign company do CGI cartoons. That's what kind of seemed like to me. It was like kind of like the B-rated version of like some cartoons or something. I don't know, but. Maybe they'll do better this week. Jacksonville, they pull out the win. It's a home win here in London. They do well there. They pull it. We picked the win on that one. But they've got a tough act to follow here when, yes, they are not traveling. So that is a good part for them. They get to stick around in London so they don't have to do the long jet lag that the Bills have to do. Will the Bills now, almost like what the Miami Dolphins maybe kind of even came off of, is scoring so much here in that last game in that high, come on that jet lag of a long-ass trip to freaking London here and suffer for it for a little bit here to play up against these Jacksonville Jaguars.
I mean, teams now are smarter in terms of traveling. They're going to travel early. They're going to get there early. They're going to have a couple of days to kind of adapt to that time zone and then be ready for Sunday. So the Bills, I don't think they're going to be jet lagged or anything like that. And honestly, like, it's possible that they could be, kind of on cloud 9 right now after not only beating the division rival in the Dolphins, but also stomping in the ground on them. And maybe they slip up a little bit with Jacksonville, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think the Bills, roster-wise and the way the Jaguars have played up to this point, Jaguars got to win, but Jaguars haven't been that great either. So I'm going to go with Buffalo Bills in this one.
All right, here we go. Nathaniel Hackett has the Bills in this one. Tom Leiter says they're better than the Manning cast, by the way, the Amazon, I guess he's saying. I don't know. I think I'd still rather watch the Mannings.
I'd rather not watch either one.
But I'm still, what's funny, I noticed too, even with some of the broadcasts too, even ESPN, it seems like they messed up a lot camera-wise, moving around and stuff like that. It just seems like some of these crews are just really jacking some shit up. And then even the fact that Joe Buck says on the air, they must have put it in his ear to say, it's like, by the way, right now at the Manning Cast has this guy on here, or Will Ferrell's on there, so switch to that channel and check out Will Ferrell. Yeah. And then Troy Aikman's like, no, stay right here, blah, 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 with our guys.
Budget cuts, man.
Holy crap,
Budget
dude.
cuts are really hurting ESPN.
Yeah.
We've seen them getting rid of a lot of big names.
Booker McFarlane was probably running the camera.
Probably.
He's doing it all.
But ESPN's been getting rid of a lot of big names lately, and it's because of money issues. Yeah. They're in jeopardy of going bankrupt in the next couple of years, and it's affecting them. So maybe it's even affecting camera guys. They're just hiring straight out of college, maybe, and having them just run the cameras because they're cheaper.
Absolutely. All right, we got Mike Taka in the house tonight again. Here he goes. Here's his question of the night. I love it. Bigger surprise. What does it say? Four-way tie in the AFC South, or Cowboys being 3-1. I would say the South being tied at this point.
Yeah,
for me.
I would say that.
Cowboys always do all right, especially early on. And really, who have they really played right now? You know what I mean? Nobody stupendous, nobody crazy. I mean, that's why even right now this game, and it kind of pisses them off even too, and that's going to give them a little more fuel on the fire. They get to play the best team in the NFL right now, the 49ers. So
I think they got away with one against the Jets.
Yeah.
Because they were supposed to play Rodgers.
Yeah, yes.
And they got away with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rodgers in that game is a different story.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
So they've been lucky right now. Yep. And so this will be their true test. And that's why everybody has kind of said this. This is your test now, or your litmus test even, at least, to see is how good are you really, though? You know, you're good, but what's your ceiling here? Because you're going against the best this week. So we'll see how they do. They think they can average pretty well against Brock Purdy, and they can disrupt him a little bit. But Brock Purdy is so smooth and cool. I don't know, man. And plus you got all those weapons around you. I think Shanahan's going to be able to mix it around all over the place here and still find ways to beat you on that one. But we'll talk about that one again a little bit more when we get into that game. But for me, the surprise, the South being tied. Some of the way that Houston has been playing right now, the Indianapolis Colts even right now keeping it real. I think even Nathaniel, when he did his picks, did he have one of those teams going over or something like that? And he had some of the other ones going like super high with wins, you know, with bare minimum losses.
Right.
That was an interesting division because I remember him saying something like that. And it's tight. Who knows?
Yeah, so going to Houston and the Atlanta Falcons this week. Falcons, I mean, they kind of let me down. I thought they would be at least competitive in that game, and they just didn't show up.
You said you'd never pick them again now. Is that you going to stick with that?
I'm not picking them this week. It's because Houston's coming to town. And Houston has been very surprising for a lot of people because they're being led by C.J. Stroud, a rookie quarterback who's actually lighting it on fire in fantasy too. The dude is not only putting up great stats, but he's also killing it in fantasy. And someone that if you need a quarterback, he's someone that if he's available, grab him. But I'm going to go with Houston. They're pretty healthy right now. So isn't Atlanta. But I just like what Houston has to offer. Their offensive line is getting healthier. Titus Howard, the former free agent signee, has the 21-day practice window to come back, and he's healthy. So you might be seeing their true starting offensive line, minus maybe Kendrick Green. He's been placed on the IR, so he's going to miss some time. But nonetheless, they're losing one key offensive lineman and gaining another, and the tackle is a pretty big deal. So I'm going Houston against Atlanta.
All right, yeah. Nathaniel says I was dead wrong on Houston. So yeah, and it happens. We were dead wrong on a few different things this season already. Houston, I like the way they're playing too as well. They always come to play. Stroud again. Right now, the best out of the rookie quarterbacks, hands down. And they come to perform. I wasn't sure about how they're going to do with DeMeco Ryans because we've seen some of these other defensive coordinators, even out of San Francisco, move up and get other jobs and things. But it seems like it's working out for them, and they're getting behind them. Atlanta, I think they're getting exposed for kind of what they were even last year. You know what I mean? I think they were kind of doing a little something here to get by last year with some of that running game and stuff. But this might be a testament to say that, again, Ritter is maybe not the guy for them. They need to move on and try and figure out what's going on here in Atlanta. So I'm going to go with the Houston Texans.
And you bring up Ritter, and it's funny because Lude Point this week is everybody's calling for his head. They don't want him starting. Listen, they got Taylor Heineke in waiting, could come in and be a huge difference maker for them.
Put some fire in them.
I mean, honestly, it's going to light a spark for sure because you're getting a veteran who's been there, done that, can win for a team, especially Atlanta. Atlanta's got all these weapons. They got a lot of explosiveness on that side of the ball, and their defense is not bad. It's actually pretty good. So put Taylor Heineke in and turn the season around.
Yeah.
You still have an opportunity where you could still push for maybe the division, but you have to do it now. You can't wait till mid-season and they're like, oh well, nothing's working. We're out of the running, so to speak. All right, now we'll put Taylor Heineke in. Why do it late? Make a change now because you're not going anywhere with Ritter. It's already been proven. Guy's had a lot of opportunity to show what he could do. He's not that guy. So put in Heineke, turn the season around. Falcon fans will love you for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom Leiter says Seattle wins with an early, much-needed bye week. Absolutely. What else? I missed a comment before that.
Nathaniel said, I originally said 0-17 for the Texans.
Yes. Yeah, they said he goes, that being said, I have the Texans this week. There you go. He's a believer now, Joe. He's
Do you believe?
Reemerged.
Do you believe? I need to ask. Do you believe now?
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Atlanta, who knows? Maybe around this time or around, mid-season or wherever that time where it start talking hot seats, do you think
Arthur Smith?
Arthur Smith's in the hot seat? Or
No,
you
I don't think he's in the hot
seat.
I don't think he's in the hot seat.
On this one?
Nope, not at all.
All right. We got the Carolina Panthers here and the Detroit Lions. This one could be a trap game. The way the Lions are sometimes. You know what I'm saying? The Lions, they play, up to some of these tougher teams, and then they downplay when you think that they're here and they're real and they've arrived, they'll lay a stinker for you. You know what I mean? Everybody.
That's Cincinnati.
Before.
That's what they're known for.
Oh, they're known for it too. Well, there's a couple teams we can do that and just change the logos.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? But for them, it just seems like it's sometimes here for me. Gotcha. Now, the thing is with Detroit, I'm asking for them to chain a couple of wins together here. Let's look at teams that you should beat. And the way Carolina, they're going through some growing pains. They're learning right now, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? We kind of saw this coming. This is one of the things I think we kind of did get right. They're going through some growing pains, getting it going. Detroit at home, that place is going to be rocking. They just need to take the momentum that they had last week, keep it going. But like Joe said, play all 60 minutes, complete the game, finish the game, keep the pressure going. Don't step back. Don't let a team back in this.
Don't take your foot off the gas pedal now.
It will get you. 97, lights out, in the backfield the whole time. Let's do it again. I like the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Carolina, I mean, the one issue that they're having right now is the fact that Bryce Young is turning the ball over. It seems like every week he's fumbling. He's making a bad decision. He's throwing an interception. And it still hasn't stopped. So last week we just saw that. Basically, Bryce Young made a critical mistake in fumbling the football for Minnesota to scoop and score, and that's really kind of all the momentum went away from Carolina, all to Minnesota, and they just took over the game after that. They finished the game, and Carolina had it. They had a win there, and they just kind of let it slip away. So for Carolina this week, I still think they're going to be competitive. I think they're going to do whatever they have to do to get things right. They're a very young offense, and there's some receiving targets that look really special, or at least could be for Carolina going forward. But you're playing Detroit. You're playing in Detroit, nonetheless. And you're playing a team that is on the rise, has a lot of momentum so far this season, and they're going to flat out beat you up. So I'm going Detroit at home.
All right, next up with the next matchup, we've got division game here. Again, we're talking about them being tied right now here. We've got the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. Colts have been playing well. They're going to play well at home, too, as to get this going. They've been a bit of a surprise for me. But, again, against the Tennessee Titans team, who still, I think, has had a rough patch here as well, but able to do well against that Cincinnati Bengals team last week and doing what they do best. Get Derrick Henry out there and just pound the ball. I think they're going to get some more of that this week. I like the Tennessee Titans here against the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, coming to Indy. Listen, despite Richardson's highlights here and there, he still makes some bad decisions too. And that's all part of being a rookie quarterback. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to always be perfect. But I do like what the Colts have brewing there on offense with them. Jonathan Taylor, even if he is healthy enough to play, we just not sure how often he's going to play. Not necessarily in football shape. I know we use that term a lot on this show. But it is a big difference. Being in shape is one thing, but football shape is another. It's on another level. I don't know if he's going to be fully ready for that. So I don't know if he's going to be on a pitch count. Even that being said, the Colts are missing some key players on defense. Kwity Paye has a concussion. He hasn't cleared it yet. And then for Tennessee, Tennessee's got a lot going for them. They're a tough physical football team, and they look to do the same thing against the Colts, even though they're going into Indy. The Colts have the number 1 rush defense, so despite if Taylor is available or whoever's running the ball, it's going to be a rough day for them. And for the Titans on offense, they're just getting things going. I mean, they've been able to run the ball with Derrick Henry. They've also been able to distribute the football with Ryan Tannehill going to Hopkins and Treylon Burks and even Chig at tight end. So they got some things going for them. So I'm going to go with the Titans going into the Colts and getting the win.
All right, there you go. Nathaniel says that's the hardest pick of the week. He says, however, I'm going with the Titans too as well. And he also said the Lions win, and he thinks that's the easiest pick of the week. So, all right, he's along with us too. I'm going to be tracking Nathaniel's wins too, or picks too, as well with this one. All right, the New York Giants, football Giants against the Miami Dolphins. Oh shit! It's another terrible week to be a Giants fan. Here we go. If you thought, how many more records can we help other teams break this season? That's another one, Joe. How about that? How many other records can the Giants help teams break that haven't existed since 1929 or whatever, since the existence of the franchise? We just let the Seattle Seahawks get, 11 sacks in one game? They haven't done that in like their whole franchise. It's been 30 years. The Cowboys putting up 40 points on us too. Again, they haven't done that since 1980 or something. Ridiculous. And now we have to face this Miami team who's bitter that they just got beat by the Buffalo Bills, a rival. They are going to take it out on us. They're going to take us out behind the shed and whoop us. Okay. Especially down in Miami. You think the New York Giants were gassed last week playing in New York when it was a little more mild that Monday night? It was an 80-degree day here in New York. They looked gassed then. Wait till they hit the humidity there in Miami and sweat their balls off there and get just to kick the shit out of them when they have to face the speed that they have to face here. They can't stop the run, so they're going to run all over their ass. So then after that, they're going to all right, by the way, we've got these guys we get past to too. And I see Tyreek Hill saying peace sign all night long, and he's going to be saying it for days after too as well. Everybody keeps saying Miami's still scoring. You thought you never seen anything yet, and this is what you're going to get in this one. I feel bad. I'm going to still watch the game because I like to really punish myself and being a Giants fan. But Miami all day long. Joe, take it away.
I think you said a lot.
Enough for you, right?
I think you might have said enough for me. The only thing that I will add to that is that
make any points though.
The Giants, the Giants, so far this week, John Michael Schmitz hasn't practiced yet. Looks like he's in jeopardy of missing this week. Same as Andrew Thomas. Other than that, Evan Neal has practiced. Everybody else has. Saquon has even practiced. So maybe they get Saquon back and Evan Neal and company. So that's at least a little bit of positive news for the Giants. Other than that, going into Miami, the humidity, the heat, like Jim kind of mentioned that. The Giants are going to be in. We saw them huffing and puffing last week. They're going to be in. They're going to look like puddles after this game is over with. The Dolphins
can be like elemental.
They play exactly the way they want to play. This offense is super explosive, and the up and coming play of David Achane at running back is something to be seen. We're going to see a lot of him, I feel like, this coming week against the Giants and putting up big-time stats along with everybody else there. Dolphins all the way.
All right, we've got a couple comments out there, Joe, too, as well. Was that Nathaniel said he's going to pick the Dolphins in this one?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's pretty easy. Yep, he goes, I think the Dolphins-Giants game will look more like Giants-Seahawks instead of Broncos-Dolphins, but I don't think it will be close either. Who knows? Again, I mean, I don't know, but, I'm expecting or I'm hoping that
I don't think it's going to be close.
No, I'm hoping out of this that they get embarrassed so badly again that, again, Kafka's gone. Because at least with Dable, and if he's running the offense, then it is totally all on him. Then he's got to do whatever he's got to do. But I think he mixes it up better. He's able to use Daniel Jones a lot better, and just he was getting people open, doing shorter routes even too, Joe, crossing routes, things like that. Seems like Kafka was going deep to try and get big chunks back really fast, and when it didn't happen, just ran the ball again. And like you say, I already saw him give up on 3rd and long. When you needed to get back into this game, at least take a shot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't do anything. You ran. That's Joe Judge right there. So you know what happened to him. So get the hell out. I'm done with it. Let's move on. All right, here we go. We've got the and Thibodeau sucks too. Still, he might have got a sack even that game or whatever, but it doesn't matter. He still blows. All right, the New Orleans Saints and the New England Patriots, Joe. Take it away. Why don't you just take this one first?
No, keep going. You're good.
No.
Keep going.
Oh, you want to go with it? Okay.
You wanted
New Orleans Saints?
We talked enough about the Giants. You might as well keep going right into the next game.
Yeah. Okay. The New England Patriots here, Joe. They do get J.C. Jackson here, and he still should be all right. Still know the defense here because it hasn't changed in forever either. They're at home. They want to bounce back here. New Orleans is in a little bit of a thing too, a little bit of a pickle here with what they've been playing. Not really doing a whole lot, staying in games, and been able to win a few times, but last week, not really stepping up, even though Alvin Kamara came back and he had, 80 yards maybe or something. Didn't do enough to get it done. This is going to be a tough one for me here, Joe, but I think not having a Matt Judon here for the New England Patriots is super big for them on their part, on defensive side. So I'm going to lean towards the New Orleans Saints on this one.
Yeah, and one thing that I will say is that I'm a little disappointed in the Patriots offense so far. The lack of execution, the lack of being able to make sustaining drives. They have Zeke and they have Ramondre Stevenson, and I'm surprised they're not running.
Not relying on them.
They're not utilizing them more. And we already know that they like to throw to the tight end from time to time, but man, it's just like, I don't know what happened to the creativity of this offense and being able to keep opponents on edge. I'm not seeing it. Defensively, that's kind of like the only bright light in New England right now is that they play tough, they play physical, they keep opponents in check, but after a while, they get tired. They get tired of being on the field a lot. So, and that's where the Patriots struggles are right now. The Saints, they're a weird group to figure out. Honestly, the offensive line is terrible. The protection is horrendous. Ryan Remzik, former All-Pro right tackle, is a sieve this year. I don't know if there's a underlying injury that we don't know about and hasn't been publicized or something, but it is so weird to see that guy struggle week to week. And then not to mention, you got Trevor, the second-year offensive tackle on the other side. He's struggling to pass protect, to run protect. So, I mean, I look at Pete Carmichael in this offense, and it's like, Pete, you got to step your game up in terms of creativity. Channel your inner Sean Payton with this team because you need to come up with some things that are going to work, some plays that are going to work. You got Kamara back now. Utilize him out of the backfield. You got these tight ends at your disposal. I think Juwan Johnson's in jeopardy of missing this game, but come on, something's got to give here. So the Saints defense, I'll say this, they are still a really, really good defense, and I feel like that's going to probably be the tipping point of this game. I'm going to go the Saints into New England getting the win.
All right.
Nathaniel said, I am also picking the Saints, and Obi-Wan Kenobi has entered
with us. Nice.
the chat. He said, hello there. Love the show. Appreciate you, Obi.
Yes.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you. Absolutely.
If you want to talk about anything, drop comments down below. We'll be sure to talk about it. for sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Next game, we got Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. I don't have any confidence in them. Honestly, like what I am the most disappointed in is the chemistry and the offensive play calling with Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. I thought this year was going to be a big year for the two of them to really connect, to exploit any weaknesses in the defense, and just have George Pickens have a huge season. I did not expect Pickens to struggle and Kenny Pickett to struggle as well. This offense as a whole, Najee Harris, you know, it seems like they're trying to get him in the game. They're trying to utilize him, but it's like they're always behind. So it's very hard to do so. Pittsburgh is struggling on offense and defensively. It's what keeps them in games, but this is going to be a really tough battle between both teams. It's a divisional clash, but the Ravens look way better than Pittsburgh right now, and I'm going to go with Baltimore in this one.
All right. Here we go. Yeah, Pittsburgh, they're beat up again, and I don't think Pickett's going to be able to play even this week, is he? He's banged
He's in
up,
jeopardy
right?
of not being there.
Yeah. I mean, even if so, the way they haven't been able, their
They
defense
struggle anyway.
has been able to keep them in games and
Pickett-
stuff,
Pickett
but
quote
Baltimore is a whole
told-
different one.
Pickett told reporters that he'll be ready to go by Sunday. So there you go.
We'll see.
Pickett
but-
himself said so.
Yeah, there you go.
Screw the
I guess,
doctors.
yeah, yes.
Screw what they say.
Yeah.
I'm
okay,
playing.
I'm still playing. Yep.
But I mean, here's the other thing. Let's just add more injury to insult here. But Pat Fryermuth is in jeopardy of not playing. Their big tight end. James Daniels, their best offensive lineman, did not practice to this point. Their tackle, Chukwuemeka, whatever the heck his name is, did not practice. Luke Holcomb, the linebacker with our biggest hit from 2 weeks ago that he made, he's limited. Patrick Peterson didn't play, the corner. And their punter of all people did not practice. So a lot of injuries to account for. So I think the Steelers might struggle here.
Yeah, I said the same thing. And then you got Lamar Jackson and company, and he's been able to put the ball in a better placement this season here and getting out to these receivers, and still being able to accomplish what he does, gets rushing touchdowns a game. Pittsburgh's defense has a lot to handle in this one.
For
so I
sure.
think I got Baltimore as well. So does Nathaniel, I think. Yep, absolutely. All right, next on, we got the Philadelphia Eagles and the Rams. Now, this game, I think, is going to be super close.
I think
I'm
so
just
too.
saying.
I think so too.
I got a feeling.
Yeah.
I think even some people have said out there with their hot takes that this is the week that the Eagles lose and they are no longer undefeated here.
Okay.
Which could happen. I mean, the Rams,
Could.
for some reason, see, look, there you go. Obi-Wan Kenobi. He says
Says
it's
the
right there, the
Rams.
Rams. He's got the Rams in that one. I don't know. But again, Matthew Stafford's banged up in this one, but return of Cooper Kupp, could be good for them.
Oh, it could be great for them.
You know,
absolutely.
So here, and Philadelphia's offense, they've been able to do some stuff, but not, do well. But they're not that explosive team that we kind of saw last year. And with how talented they are, I think on paper sometimes it kind of confuses us when we don't see them lighting teams up, like when we see the Dolphins do it sometimes, or the Bills or whatever, what the Cowboys even been doing to some teams. We're not seeing any of that. So it's kind of throws people off a little bit here. But they kind of like it that way as well. They like to be that dirty kind of play those tough games, and they feel it helps them in those tougher rounds when it gets further onto the playoffs to help get those victories. To not take anything for granted too as well, to rough it out and through adversity pull out that victory, because they had that game in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs too as well, where it was score back and forth, and it came up to a last possession too. So this is gonna be closer than I think.
Absolutely.
Rams at home, again, don't really have a home field advantage, even though it is the Rams. Even still, you're in LA, a lot better still than what the Chargers would be. But I think Philadelphia still has enough to edge this one out, just because that core offensive line is so tight, and what they do to execute some plays, they're going to get people some opportunity to get people open. And that fourth down, when it comes down to fourth down play, I trust nobody more than the Philadelphia Eagles and getting that freaking quarterback sneak here and just stacking the box, stacking the line.
That
you know,
might change this
getting it done.
week
Who
with
knows,
the Aaron Donald in the
that
middle.
It would be interesting to see, though.
Because I'll tell you right now, it's the battle of the Titans in the interior. You got on one side you got Jason Kelsey, and then the other side you got Donald. Two of the best players to play their positions, and it's going to be a fun matchup to watch for sure. Philly, I just think they have too much on the roster, too much firepower. Yes, they've kind of allowed teams to hang around, but they still are able to pull off the wins. Like Washington was a close one. They probably they deserved to lose that game, but they still pulled it out. The Rams, the one thing that concerns me about the Rams going into this week is that last week their interior offensive linemen were like dropping like flies in that game, leaving the game for quite some time, then coming back and finishing the game. But if that happens in this one, it's going to be a murder scene. Like the Eagles are just going to wreak havoc. It's great that they're getting Cooper Kupp back for the Rams. That's really going to help kind of allow Stafford to get rid of the football faster. He's not going to have to rely on just maybe one or two receivers. Now he's got Kupp too. And for the Eagles, they just got too much. Like defensively, offensively, there's too many guys to try to defend or attack. So I'm going Eagles all day.
All right, we got Nathaniel says Eagles too as well. So there we go. Some of our
Hashtag know-it-alls.
have two different opinions here. We got the Rams and the Eagles here. So I'm excited to see this one. I think this
It's going to be a great game.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if the Rams win, though.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yep. All right, now the Cincinnati Bengals and the Arizona Cardinals, Joe. This game is a little more interesting.
This is
to me
tough
now as well.
This Nathaniel
Right?
said what was the game he said was harder to pick? Was it the
he
Tennessee
said
Indy
the
game?
Tennessee Indy game.
I don't know, man. This is going to
That
be a
one
really
is tough
one.
because Indianapolis and Tennessee, they always duke it out sometimes. And again,
They are division
pulls it out.
rivals. It makes the
They
most
do.
sense.
Yeah, it does. But Arizona, they've been playing everybody tough, and Dobbs is no
have.
quick guy. James Conner runs like an animal. And that defense, again, some of those guys have really been nice little highlights for them too. Is where again we thought they were just moving on,
Right.
intending maybe basically of stinking to get another pick, high pick in this draft, and they're really performing. Cincinnati just been terrible, lackluster offense, things like that.
I don't think they've been terrible, but I think they've definitely struggled. It's just I can't put my finger on it. And the only thing and this is kind of what we talked about it earlier in the show, is the only thing that I can say is it's not personnel. It's not like everybody is just bad at playing, but to me, it's more about coaching. I just think they're getting out-coached is really, I think, the deciding factor of a lot of these games. I mean, they're 1-3 right now, and to be 1-3, and now also Burrow he says he's healthy. He says he's a full go this week, but man, it just takes one wrong hit or one wrong way he moves to kind of re-injure that calf. That's concerning to me. So Cincinnati has to travel to Arizona, and it's not the traveling, like it's a long distance, but at least it's going to the West Coast and not vice versa. So you don't lose sleep over this. But Cincinnati, the one thing that I'll say about this game is I think this is going to be a very close game. But I got to say, Arizona's way healthier. They're not as banged up. T. Higgins did not practice up to this point. I guess he has some rib issues, and there's a thought out there that he might not even be in the lineup this week because of it. So they might perhaps lose a weapon there. Arizona completely healthy, getting back a couple of players as well. Garrett Williams, their draft pick corner, is coming back this week. So that's going to even add more firepower to the defense. It's already been overwhelming a lot of offenses. And then on top of that, they're getting back some offensive line help. And Dennis Daly, free agent that they signed in the offseason, now is finally healthy to come back for Arizona. And wow, an Arizona Cardinal team, very healthy, not one gimpy player on the roster right now. And they're facing Cincinnati. I like Arizona's chances at home. I think I'm going to go the Cardinals in this one.
Oh, boom. Look at that. The Cardinals on that one. Joe goes with Cardinals. Nathaniel says it's an easy pick for him. He's going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals all day. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati on this one. I think this is one of the teams that they can help bounce back. But again, closer than I think than some people might think. Like Nathaniel thinks it's going to be an easy one.
I think it's going to be that easy.
I think this is a good one that Cincinnati can help build something back and try and get some momentum back and start to string some wins together after this one. Next up, we've got the New York Jets and the Denver Broncos. Denver at home. They pull out a win barely here against the Bears, and it hasn't looked good, especially even on defense. I wouldn't be surprised if midseason, again, if they're still where they are with this situation, if Vance Joseph's going to end up losing a job here too. You see the difference on the defensive side of the ball. Make some changes here, and maybe they try and get somebody else to run the show here because they haven't been able to do it. Offensive again, Russell Wilson had a better game than he's been doing. But the Jets, I like what I saw out of Zach Wilson. Yes, and he made a few different mistakes here. The fumble, whatever it is, but the kid's trying to do his best here with what he can. You got to see him mix it up a little bit too and get it out to Garrett Wilson some more too. And those guys you saw even after every play, Garrett Wilson going back over to Zach Wilson and really prepping him up a little bit too and patting him on the back. And really they're getting a relationship together here too. I think this is going to be a tight game here at first, but I think the Jets defense is key in this one. They're going to force Russell Wilson to make mistakes here and turn the ball over. And I tell you the truth, I'm not really convinced in Denver either and on their defensive side. So I think the Jets are going to go into Denver and pull out a victory here with Zach Wilson and make it interesting.
Nathaniel said, he goes, I'm picking Cardinals, not Bengals. Just so everybody
I thought
knows.
you said
He might have changed his mind. I don't know.
I thought you said it was easy. My bad.
Oh, he goes, I think it's easy. I am picking, I can't
I'm picking
see it.
Arizona. Clear for me. Oh, you did. He did say Arizona. My bad.
There you go. It's been
I
been
can't read
decided.
the damn chat. Even though it's big right underneath me in multiple boxes.
All right, so the Jets going into town against Denver. I love the Jets defense. Absolutely think it's going to be the one things that give Denver a lot of fits. Russell Wilson has played better this season, but it's not good enough. Denver Broncos, I think they got lucky last week. They got bailed out by their defense for the most part. And I'm going to go with the Jets in this one. Like I believe Zach Wilson can continue to get better. And against the Denver defense that pretty much is going to be on the field a lot, I feel like. Just like they have been in every single game, they're going to get tired. And that's kind of really what's going to end up happening. I think the Jets are going to pour it on. They're going to run the ball. They're going to throw the ball. And in the end, the Jets come away with a victory.
All right, next up we've got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Minnesota Vikings. I like this one too because Minnesota at home, they play well there too. Kansas City, a lot of mistakes for Patrick Mahomes here last week against that Jets defense.
Played a really good defense. That's why.
Yep, it's gonna be rough for him here. But Minnesota, too many turnovers here with them too as well, killing them because they've been in every game and they had opportunities to win. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a tough game in Minnesota. It's going to I really feel something for Minnesota in this one. But I think Patrick Mahomes is going to come back from that terrible game here, and they've got some personnel to get it done. I like the Kansas City Chiefs in this one. Let's do that one. Yeah, but I'll be happy if Minnesota wins.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
For different reasons. Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, they're the team to beat right now. They're just flat out the team to beat. And Minnesota, I think last week they were able to scrape by a win. They didn't necessarily deserve to win, but they made the necessary the score on the turnover. So Minnesota does play tough at home, but I feel like when you're playing a Chiefs defensive line that now has Chris Jones, and then it looks like Nick Bolton is going to make his return this week at linebacker. They're a lot healthier right now. Pretty much the whole team is healthy. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs going into Minnesota and getting the win.
All right. We got a couple comments here. Joe, you want to read them up for me?
We got Obi-Wan says, please, Vikings. Nathaniel goes, offensively, Denver is a one-half team. I won't be shocked if you see more like the Broncos versus Commanders. I think Denver starts strong, but the Jets make a comeback. I think the Jets just beat Denver. That's what I think.
Just beat the daylights out of them.
And then Nathaniel also says Chiefs
He says
for the
Chiefs.
next game.
There he goes on Chiefs on that one. All right, we've got Sunday night football, and the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers, this heated rivalry. San Francisco at home. They are on like an undefeated streak at home too, Joe. I mean,
They're
it's
killing
crazy
it, man.
what they do.
It's been like, what, two seasons of
Something
just
like
being
that.
undefeated
Yeah,
straight?
Yeah, absolutely. Dallas has their work cut out for him. I know Dak Prescott's pissed off because I think somebody even brought it up in a press conference and how poor he plays against these guys. Fuel to his fire. But I think it's going to be more of the same. I think this defense is great. San Francisco, their offense, they can hit you from any angle, from any running back. And remember, you got even Elijah Mitchell in the backfield too as well, when you don't even want to use a Christian McCaffrey. But Christian McCaffrey has been balling this year. Lights out. And then look at the receivers too. Brock Purdy just has to just do his thing. He's cool, calm, and collect. And I think this defense is susceptible here. This Dallas Cowboys defense, they've gotten beat before. They're not stupendous. Yes, they do have a little bit of a pass rush, but Micah Parsons has been shown that he can get stopped too. And he's a little banged up from last week. He got his ankle rolled a few different times. So that would help, eliminate some of that too as well. So I like San Francisco at home in this one.
I'll say this. This is not the time to have a player missing that is a key part of your defense in the secondary. Diggs is not there, and that is a huge problem for every week going forward. Micah Parsons, he's gonna be dangerous for sure, like he is every single week. But I feel like Kyle Shanahan and the offensive staff have plans when they do in fact play against Micah Parsons to kind of take that edge off and for him to just pin his ears back. And I would like to see, for once, the Niners play man against the Cowboys offense, because this defense of theirs is super good. And if anybody is to give Dallas Cowboys a taste of their own medicine and give them a donut, this is the team, San Francisco. I'm going with the Niners at home. Going to be very hard for the Cowboys to compete with this team. I still think this is going to be one of those games, because typically when Cowboys and Niners get together, it's always a clash. It's always close, low-scoring type of a game. But we'll see. I just have all the confidence in the world of 49ers to do what they want to do, offensively, defensively, and I feel like the Cowboys are going to try to just play catch-up.
All right, and finally we got Monday Night Football. Again, they're not flexing teams yet. They're going to do that later on in the season. But Green Bay Packers,
they did flex a game this week.
Did
yes, they flex. I believe it's the
was it the 49ers game?
No, it wasn't. It was a team playing in the 1:00 game to 4:25.
So it'd be the Minnesota or the Denver Jets games, or maybe Kansas City, Minnesota. We got Green Bay Packers there and the Vegas Raiders. Raiders got beat up last week again. Green Bay, they lost, but they are really showing me something here. I'm surprised about that team as well, because I thought even losing Aaron Rodgers, did hear a lot of positive stuff about Jordan Love. Not sure what to expect of him. I just was unknown, really. So I was looking at worst case scenario first, and now I'm pleasantly surprised. Even on the defensive side, they've just been doing pretty well too, and keeping them in games. And now they have Christian Watson back and everything, so I think should be good. I think I give them the benefit of doubt in this one. Vegas just haven't looked good. They do play better at home. And I think Max Crosby is still going to get some pressure out there and make it
They don't
hard.
have a home.
But I know. But
They don't have a home.
I'm just saying they do. They do play better there, at home. Their crowd gets getting crazy, and I think they'll start out really tough, but I think Green Bay will eventually edge them out here in this one.
Obi-Wan says Raiders, if they can put 20 or more points up the first time this season, and that right there should tell you everything about Vegas's offense. Is that how much it struggles to score points, even though they have all the weapons in the world to put points up on the board. I mean, listen, up to this point, Josh McDaniels has been doing nothing but disappointing Raider fans in how bad this offense runs. Poor play calling is like the biggest problem, but when you have Jimmy G or whoever else, they played the rookie last week. Either way, this offense struggles. So defensively too, Patrick Graham, he's not the answer at D coordinator. Simply, like, I know a lot of people were thrilled to see this guy take over and see what he could do with this team, but man, is it bad. You only literally have two really good defensive players, Max Crosby and Marcus Epps. Other than that, it's just anybody's game. Green Bay, they've shown a lot more flashes this season. Despite the curiosity of Jordan Love and what he could be, their offense runs better, passes better, does everything better, despite a wounded offensive line. And I just got to go with Green Bay all the way in this one. I don't think Raiders stand a chance.
There you go. Yeah. And you know what? The way the talk, I think you brought up the fact about the players even too against him. That's never good. So it says you lost the locker room. So.
You're hearing a lot more complaining, not just in the locker room, but outside of it, where players are either commenting about in an interview or they're commenting outside of it in social media. We're seeing tweets now from different players. Marcus Peters is one of them, saying that, or basically, he didn't say, but let's just say that he saw a post made from a Raider fan that said, fire Josh McDaniels, and Marcus Peters liked it. So take that for what you will. I think the man is losing the locker room. I think he's losing this team. And when that happens, it's never a good thing.
Obi-Wan says not Devontae's fault there on that one, and Nathaniel's going with the Packers on that one too as well. So there you go, Joe. That's our week 4 here, and to move it on, or going into week 5. Definitely, we appreciate everybody joining us for the show here tonight. Joe, tell them what to do to find out more. And
very simple. Like if you lasted this long, do us a huge favor. Head over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button for us, hit that notification bell, let you know when we go live. You can also follow us anywhere you get your podcasts. Please do so. Help us grow this. What we got? Obi-Wan said Denver 2.0 for McDaniels. No kidding.
It's
no
worse.
kidding. It's bad. It's real bad. But yeah, do us a huge favor. Help us grow this football community. Head over to YouTube, subscribe. Anywhere you get your podcast, drop a follow. And feel free to do so anytime we do our show. Tune in next Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. This is where we're going to be. Make sure you stop by.
All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.